Can you believe it? Just one click to increase visa fees, and the US risks losing millions of tourists. From Brazil to China, the whole world is gradually turning its back. Traveling to America was once a dream. Now it's becoming an expensive and complicated dream. Tourism was once America's largest source of foreign currency. Each year, tens of millions of people from Asia, Europe, and South America flock to. But in just the past few months, a seemingly small step, increasing visa fees from $185 to $250 has caused a global domino effect. Families had to cancel their summer vacation plans, business people cancelled conferences, and students hesitated between the US and Canada. Meanwhile, competing nations like Canada, Japan, and the UAE are rolling out the red carpet to welcome international visitors. And the question is, what is the US trying to protect? National security? Or are we going to lose a $2 trillion USD industry with our own hands? In today's video, we'll explore the quietly spreading collapse of American tourism. Who is most affected? Why are people choosing to leave the US for Canada, Japan, and Mexico? And is this visa policy a mistake, or a sign that America is choosing to close itself off to the world? Don't miss out, because countless surprises are waiting for you in this video. Let's get started. You may not have heard of the integrity fee, but in the past 2 weeks alone, this fee has caused millions of people around the world to reconsider their plans to come to the US, and some have even cancelled completely. Starting mid-July 2025, the US Department of Homeland Security will officially implement a new fee, $250 for each non-immigrant visa application, including both regular tourist visas and visa waiver programs like ESTA for citizens of European countries, Japan, South Korea, etc., and EV-use for visitors from China. The number 250 may not seem large to a frequent traveler, but for families in India, the Philippines, Brazil, or Thailand who once dreamed of setting foot in the United States, this fee makes the entire trip impossible. If, in the past, it was easier to get a US visa than a Canadian one, with faster processing times and fees about 25 to 30% lower, things have now reversed. Some countries that were once visa-free now have to pay up to nearly $300 per person, including processing fees, security charges, and other mandatory fees. Meanwhile, Canada is actively cutting visa costs while widely promoting the message, "We welcome you." According to Forbes and ABC News, the US government's stated purpose for the new fee is to ensure the integrity of the visa system and cover the costs of security checks. But the ripple effect isn't that simple. A wave of protests seems to be happening across the United States and even around the world. Mr. Jorge Lowry, Director of Programs and Strategy at the American Immigration Council, told USA Today, adding an extra $50 fee will likely significantly reduce the number of people who can afford it. Hundreds of thousands of people each month receive visas and permits from the State Department to travel to the United States temporarily. Many experts and even American citizens believe that increasing fees for legitimate international visitors is no different from imposing a self-imposed tax on one of our nation's largest exports, international tourism spending. These fees are not reinvested to improve the travel experience, but only lead to a decrease in visitor numbers, especially at a time when foreign tourists are already concerned about the welcome and high prices. What's even more noteworthy is that the large sum of money collected is likely to flow directly into the US Treasury without any specific allocation for tourism development. Meanwhile, tourists who have long dreamed of visiting the United States upon hearing about the new fees have begun to reconsider their decisions and dream of a different dream that is safer, cheaper, and less troublesome. An accounting employee living in Sao Paulo. She and her husband spent over a year saving for their first trip to the US with their 2 young children, with plans to visit Disneyland, the Grand Canyon, and New York over 3 weeks. However, when Anna filled out the visa application in early July, she was shocked to realize that the cost had increased suddenly. $50 per person, a total of $1,000, not including airfare or hotel. She shared, "I'm not angry at America. but it feels like they're putting up barriers for ordinary people like us. And she's not an isolated case. On international travel forums, hundreds of people share similar stories. Their plans to go to the US were halted solely due to the new fee. But fees aren't the only thing that makes tourists give up on US visas. The wait time for an interview can be over 250 days in some places. Who has the patience to wait 9 months just for an interview? Especially when fees have already increased and the likelihood of your application being held back is still high. As a result, many people chose to withdraw or accepted paying a partial fee and then gave up, losing money and putting in more effort. This policy isn't just about fees, it's also about feelings. I feel like I'm just a source of revenue. That's what a tourist shared after learning they would have to pay an additional integrity fee. When you're a traveler, you're always looking at the emotions. Through the airport reception, through the staff's attitude. When you have to pay an extra $250 just to keep the peace from the very beginning of your application, you wonder, why don't they trust me yet? Increasing visa fees could protect the government's budget, but what's the trade-off? When a tourist cancels a trip, thousands of dollars don't enter the US economy. A family choosing Canada over the US is a loss for a local area, resulting in lost customers, lost jobs, and a loss of vitality. If you're American, do you regret losing international visitors due to visa policies and fees? They contribute to the local economy. Now they are being pushed elsewhere. Do you think the integrity fee policy is necessary for security, or is it shutting itself off from the world? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. The story now goes beyond just tourists not coming anymore. Behind it lies a domino effect that could fall at any moment. When they stopped coming, we started having to leave. That's the sharing of a Mexican-American tour guide living in Arizona. A summary of a sad reality spreading in states dependent on international tourism. For the US government, the $250 integrity fee is a way to rebalance immigration finances. But for the people, especially in the tourism and service industries, it was a farewell to an entire peak season that they had hoped would save them after the post-COVID period and prolonged inflation. According to Travel Tour World, in 2025, the United States is facing a sharp decline in the tourism sector, which is completely contrary to the initial expectations of a strong recovery in domestic tourism. Forecasts indicate that international arrivals to the US will decrease by 5.1% to 8.7%. This decline, described as the worst since the global financial crisis, poses a major threat to the economy, potentially causing billions of dollars in damage and impacting hundreds of thousands of jobs. A waiter at a local restaurant in New York, which previously served hundreds of customers from Europe each week. Each table of international guests brings in $100 to $200 in tips per day. But now, with German, French, and Korean tourists cancelling tours en masse because they don't want to pay an extra $250, Carlos is losing 40 to 50% of his weekly income. Who pays the price for a policy that was never publicly discussed? It's not the lawmakers in DC, but the small people who only hope each summer is an opportunity to make a living. According to the latest data from the US Travel Association, bookings from international travelers decreased by as much as 31% in the first 3 weeks after the integrity fee policy was announced. Florida lost over 12,000 temporary jobs in July alone, primarily in hotels, airports, and restaurants. Cities like San Francisco and Honolulu saw a drop in revenue from international visitors of nearly $45 million in just 2 weeks. In an economy where every dollar is precious, that loss isn't just a number, it's homes without power, children who can no longer afford books, and elderly people forced back into work. Not stopping there, a paradox is unfolding. While the US is making foreigners hesitant to visit, major travel companies like TUI, Germany, and HIS Japan are reallocating tours to Canada, Mexico, or Turkey. This also means that hundreds of thousands of jobs that should have gone to Americans, from shuttle drivers in Orlando to hotel staff in Las Vegas, are now being indirectly outsourced. Have you ever thought that a visa policy could create reverse job exports? Perhaps you'll see it in your country soon. The victims are not just workers in the service industry. A series of small businesses are struggling day by day. A souvenir shop at Niagara Falls, with 70% of its customers from Canada, is having to sell off its inventory due to the absence of tourists. Bilingual tour guides in Los Angeles lost their contracts with Korean tour groups simply because the groups no longer came. Uber drivers in New York shared that the number of trips from JFK Airport decreased by over 20% compared to the same period last year, just within the first week of the new policy. Perhaps in Washington, the number $250 is nothing. But in small coastal towns where every family relies on summer tourists, that number is the barrier between having a job and being unemployed, between hope and despair. The question that most people are concerned about right now is, who is responsible for the 30,000 Americans who could lose their jobs this quarter just because of integrity fees? Why does border protection policy push Americans to the brink of financial insecurity? And if foreign tourists no longer choose the US, who will save the cities that once thrived on hospitality? What do you think about this fee? Does it really protect America, or just push workers into even more difficult situations? Please leave your comments below, as this story is not just about policy, but the livelihoods of millions of Americans. We used to be proud of being an open country, but now we're closing it off, and it seems we're even locking away our own opportunities. A gentle reflection, but worth pondering. And you know what? There's an even bigger surprise. While the US is building walls and charging fees, other countries, especially Canada, are quietly taking over the global tourism market. In the next part, we'll see more clearly what Canada has done and why millions of visitors are choosing to drive across the northern border rather than fly to New York or Los Angeles. Just across the border, you feel welcome. Here, you feel processed. That was the share of a Japanese tourist who had just landed at Vancouver Airport instead of San Francisco as planned. Why? The US visa fee is too high, the procedures are cumbersome, and there's a feeling of being suspected from the moment you apply. And she wasn't the only one. The new US integrity fee applies to all visitors from over 40 countries participating in the Visa Waiver Program, ESTA. Not to mention other fees like the e-views fee for China and the application processing fee, which can bring the total cost of applying for a US visa to $400 to $500 per person, not including airfare or travel expenses. This is an unprecedented increase. But the real cost could be the trust of international visitors. While the US is building a wall of bills, Canada is rolling out the red carpet. Quietly but effectively, Canada has been subtly adjusting its visa policies to make them more accessible, transparent, and visitor-friendly. Since the launch of the ETA, Electronic Travel Authorization System, Canada has completely eliminated the traditional visa requirement for citizens from over 50 countries, only requiring them to apply online, which takes 5 minutes, costs only $7 about $5 and yields almost instant results. In the first half of 2025, the number of international visitors to Canada increased by 18.4%. Tourism revenue is up a record amount, especially from India, Brazil, and the Philippines, countries with large communities that previously prioritized the US as a destination. A designer from Mumbai, who once dreamed of going to New York to attend a visual arts workshop. But after calculating the cost of a US visa, the number made her shift her focus to Toronto. She shared, "I only spent $7, and it took less than 10 minutes. I don't feel like I need to prove I'm trustworthy. I'm just a welcome guest." Not only Canada, but the European Union is also preparing to implement ETIAS, an electronic travel authorization system similar to ETA, by the end of 2025, with a fee of only €7 and a validity of 3 years. Special. The EU completely waives visa requirements for citizens of over 60 countries, including Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Chile, Australia, Canada, etc. While the US dropped in the rankings, according to the Global Travel Index survey, in 2025, France, Spain, Italy, and Germany will be in the top 5 dream destinations, while the US will fall to 6th place, the first time since 1992. Another Asian country that is quietly rising is Japan. After the pandemic, Japan implemented an extremely effective post-COVID tourism strategy, visa-free entry for over 70 countries. The visa procedure for the remaining countries takes less than 24 hours. The Japan Welcomes You campaign is widely spread with the message, "Don't ask too many questions, just come." A retired Mexican engineer who once wanted to explore Yellowstone National Park with his wife. But after 6 months of waiting for a visa with no clear results, they chose Kyoto as their destination. No one questioned me about why I was traveling at the age of 65. There, the only people who welcomed me were with smiles and green tea. As for Singapore, a small country, but a model for immigration procedures, online applications, quick responses within 1 to 2 days. No interview, no time wasted, no pressure. And most importantly, Singapore makes foreigners feel like they are part of the system, not outsiders who need to be checked. While the aforementioned countries are reducing barriers and increasing experiences, the US is adding a new layer of fees, longer procedures, and higher uncertainty. According to CNBC, since the implementation of the visa integrity fee, the number of new applications has decreased by over 21% in the first 2 months alone. Forecasts indicate that if this trend continues, the US could lose nearly $30 billion annually from international tourism and foreign students, a crucial source of revenue for the service economy. Someone might say, we must protect border security. That's not wrong. But the question is there a way to protect America without alienating patriotic Americans? Visa was once the golden ticket, something the whole world craved. But if that ticket is exchanged for a feeling of being questioned, delayed, and overvalued, then dreams will take a different turn. When looking at Canada, where it only takes $5 and 5 minutes to get an ETA, and where people are warmly welcomed through humanistic marketing campaigns, the question arises, is the US protecting its values or losing itself? In a world where hospitality can define the travel experience, is the US choosing the right approach to maintain its image as an attractive nation? If you were a foreign tourist, would you choose the United States or Canada? Should the US adjust its visa policy? Do you still maintain the view that tourists must also pay a price to be trusted? Please share your perspective in the comments section. This story is not just about travel, but also about how we perceive respect, trust, and a nation's standing in the eyes of the world. If you find stories like this thought-provoking, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue joining us for in-depth, neutral, and emotionally rich analyses like this. There are things that when we lose them, we don't realize it immediately. They don't make any noise, leave no loopholes in the budget documents. But over time, they make a nation empty. And with the tourism industry, what's being lost isn't just money, but rather the soul of a once-beloved America. Tourists are not just people who pay for room rentals or buy tickets to visit. They are storytellers. As a photographer, blogger, reviewer, and source of inspiration for other trips. They came to learn, to understand, to communicate. And in the process, they also helped America be understood, felt, and loved again. A family from Thailand visited the Statue of Liberty, not just to look at it. They will go home and tell their friends about freedom, about the American spirit. A student from Argentina studying in Boston will become a future bridge between the two countries. A German tourist visiting Arizona to photograph the desert will bring back majestic images and a deep respect for American nature. From 2023 to 2025, according to Brand USA, the United States will lose over 13 million international visitors. Just for spending, this figure is equivalent to about $27 billion US. But there are many things that cannot be measured. There are no check-in photos at the Grand Canyon. There are no TikTok videos at the Hollywood Walk of Fame. There are no articles about America, a place I once dreamed of visiting, on my personal blog in Spanish. Instead, there were comments like, US visas are expensive and tiring. I chose Canada. It's easier and faster. I don't want to go somewhere where I have to prove my worth just to spend money. Unlike the military or trade, tourism is the softest power a nation possesses. You don't need to force anyone to come. You just need to make them want to come. And when people want to come, they will. Spend money. Learn a language. Cultural consumption. Protect your image to the world. According to Pew Research, the percentage of international people who view the United States favorably is declining most sharply among those who have been denied a visa or have had difficulty obtaining a US visa, particularly in Latin America and Southeast Asia. Why? Perhaps it's because no one likes the feeling of being treated like a threat just because they want to visit you. Every tourist who doesn't come to America is also a chef who doesn't cook a meal. A driver has no rides. A hotel housekeeper had their hours cut. A young immigrant who once hoped to advance through the service industry had to return to hard manual labor. America was once an open dream. It was once a place people flocked to, not just to see, but to feel, to learn, to experience a taste of America. When we close ourselves off from the world, we are also closing ourselves off from a part of our own identity. A visa is no longer a ticket. It becomes a psychological barrier, causing people to stop and ask, is it worth it? Do they still need me there? When was the last time you spoke with a foreigner who came to America? Do you remember the feeling of pride when someone from France, South Korea, or Brazil says, "I've always dreamed of visiting your country"? Are those things slowly disappearing without us even realizing it? We talk a lot about how America needs to be safe, but will an America that is no longer friendly, no longer a destination, no longer a dream, still be safe in the hearts of the world? If you've ever worked in the tourism industry or hosted an international friend, please share your story in the comments section. We'd love to hear from you. The good news is, America still has a chance. Because America is not just about visa procedures. America is people. It's a dream. It's the story the whole world once knew. The question is, are we ready to open the door again? Reforming the visa process doesn't mean abandoning control, but rather increasing efficiency and humaneness. Reducing barriers doesn't mean losing security, but rather increasing empathy. Inviting the world back doesn't mean weakness, but rather strength through faith. If one day your child asks, "Why don't we go to America?" you'll answer that it's because America is closed or because we're no longer welcome. The new era of travel is not about building more fences, and the key lies in who dares to open the front door. And the question for America is, do you remember how you used to welcome the world? Perhaps you don't work in the tourism industry. Perhaps you've never applied for a foreign visa. But one thing is certain. We are all living in a changing America, and not all changes are loud. When the streets are no longer filled with international tourists, when stories about America gradually disappear from the global narrative, we don't just lose spending money, we're losing connection, losing the loving gaze of those who once dreamed of coming here. And perhaps, little by little, we are losing ourselves. What do you think about this? Have you ever worked in the tourism industry? Have you ever seen a change in the place where you live when tourists stop coming? Please leave your thoughts in the comments section below. We read each story. If you find this video valuable, please hit the like button. And if you want to continue exploring the quiet transformations of America today with us, please hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to share this video with the friends who once believed in the dream of opening doors. This video is made for the purpose of sharing information and diverse perspectives, and is not intended to attack any country, organization, or individual. All data and images used are from public and reputable sources as of the time of publication. Travel is not just a journey to a place, but rather it's how a nation tells its story.